Welcome to Caring Conversations, a podcast for caregivers, care receivers, experts, and everyone in between. We're here to help you and your congregation nurture a culture of care, build up the body of Christ through real stories and practical insights from people across all walks of life and all types of care ministry. And now here's your host and Caring Congregation team leader, Debbie Dellinger.
Today, we have Reverend Karen Lampe with us, and Karen is the founder and executive director of the Caring Congregation. We are so fortunate to have you, Karen. Karen is my mentor. She is somebody that I've served under as a CCM before I became a pastor. And so, Karen, welcome.
Thank you so very much, Debbie. So good to be here with you.
Karen, we're relaunching this podcast after a bit of a hiatus, and Joy Dister Dominguez did such a great job with it, and we'll talk a little bit about what she's doing perhaps in the Horizon Texas conference, which is very exciting. But tell me, what do you hope to achieve with this podcast?
Well, first of all, Debbie, thank you for very much so taking this on. It is not an easy task to create podcasts and have themes and be in a thinking, creative process like this. So I thank you and the production team also. Just great gratitude. So first of all, what do I hope to achieve as we move through these? First of all, it takes a lot of energy and strength and deep down courage to be caregivers. And my hope in creating podcasts like this is that we, from the Caring Congregation team and all of the folks that we get on our podcast, we can be the encouragers for folks who are doing great caregiving. It just takes so very much. Even this morning, I received a text, first thing when I opened up, of a suicide of a young person, and one of a previous family that we had helped in their process of going through this great tragedy. They were online and saying, Karen, give us clues of how we might best help this family. And so that is really the bottom line. In my time of just connecting with that family and getting ready for them to go care for this newly grieving family, just to say to them, dear ones, you are taking on such an amazing calling, a task of great caregiving. And I know you can do it, but what I know too is that you will need someone to care for you as you take this on. So I am here for you. If you want to debrief, I'm here to debrief with you. But also, if you want to brainstorm, or if I can be of help to this family, this newly grieving family, I'm here. So that's the kind of energy that we want to give to all of you out there who are taking on these amazing tasks of helping people rise up from whatever is needed in their lives, because we're all just human. We're going through this human experience.
And we shouldn't go through it alone, should we? We don't ride this alone.
No, we have to have a team. We have to have great team members who will pray with us and make sure we're doing okay, and give us ideas.
So one of the beauties of this model of care is both prayer and presence. And you began this model of care at a Resurrection in Leawood, a United Methodist church, where you were a pastor there, and you actually became the executive pastor as you developed this model of care. Tell me, what was that like? A big question.
Debbie, you know that.
I know, but we
It
want
was,
to hear it in
it's
your
a
voice.
process.
You have the best
It's just a
stories.
process, and that's what we want everyone to know as we extend this method to other churches is that be just kind to yourself. Don't expect it to happen overnight. And just year by year, evaluate, evaluate, evaluate. What does your church need? What does your community need? It is not that you have to have this done in the span of 1 year. Oh, no, no. We try to help churches create a 5-year plan. And even at that, even in the 15 years that I served at Resurrection, every year there was a new evaluation. And there was an understanding that some things we needed to prune, some things we needed to extend newness of life, just help them figure out new ways of doing ministry. But there were also things that needed to be created and invented. And sometimes those took years.
Yeah.
And that's really what we hope any size church, whether it be a 2 or 3 point charge where it's small churches all joined together, serving under one pastor, or whether it's medium, small, or a large church, whatever size church, we try to just adapt and be nimble.
I hear you say that even though this was developed at Resurrection when it was much smaller and it grew, that this
Right.
model of care applies to all size churches.
Correct. Absolutely.
It can be scaled both ways. And we're actually doing some training and we have some experience in that. Can you talk about that?
Yes. Even this last weekend, I was in Topeka, Kansas, and doing a seminar for that district. And there were churches of all sizes. One particular pastor brought 2 people with her, one person from each small church that she was the pastor, and she was what in Methodist terms we call a licensed local pastor. So she has another whole occupation, which was being a piano tuner. And so she's a piano tuner and she is a pastor. And as our training, hoping to help her feel equipped that, yes, indeed, she is called. She is called, and she was telling me her life story in bits and pieces. So God has, through her life story, given her opportunity to turn those situations inside out and really use them for her communities that she's now serving. So, did that answer your question at all, Debbie?
Yeah. What I'd love to ask you is how do we do our training? What does that look like? And how has it evolved in, I guess the Caring Congregation is 8 years now doing this kind of training across denominations and across the country and literally across the world.
So, the evolution of all of this, Debbie, is really just on our knees every day. It is not about staying static. We have to be nimble. And if we're working with a different denomination, I learned so much from all the pastors that I connect with who are really doing amazing ministries in different denominations. And when I will do our basic training, I try to get a sense of what their denomination, the specifics of it. For instance, just a few years back even, I remember doing a seminar for a large ELCA Lutheran church. And I was learning so much about their doctrine and their way of doing care ministry, which really was just such an interesting learning experience for me because they are a very inclusive church. They allow their laity to do baptisms and of course communion also that's been consecrated by their elders. But just having to be nimble and learn is part of the TCC method that we really have to keep learning about the different methods from the different denominations. So another example in that regard was the Unity Church in Fort Worth, Texas.
Yep.
They had amazing things to share with me and for me to learn and just to expand their system of doing church. So as we talk about our basic methods, though, there are basic things that are common to all denominations. And that is, first of all, do you have a prayer ministry to collect the care needs of your church? There has to be an intake,
Uh-huh.
and that is across the board for all denominations. There has to be a way for these caregivers who are the laity who are learning to be that person who walks alongside their pastor, and whether you call them congregational care ministers, which is the normal, or the care minister, whatever it is, there has to be a way for them to receive their assignments, and we call that intake.
Uh-huh.
So we go over that process of creating prayer teams
Mm.
for any and all denomination. And then once you receive those prayer requests, then having the assignments made for the team members who have been trained so that absolutely no prayer request falls between the cracks. That's what we believe. And then, of course, there's other basics such as boundaries, 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 boundaries. You're never done learning boundaries. You know, that's a constant. We give our best shot in a 2-day basic training, helping people think about boundaries. But then we always encourage them and say, this is just the tip of the iceberg. You have to continue your journey to learn your good boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
then other opportunities of learning that we think are important are hospital visitation, care home visitation, one-to-one care. Notice my language change there. For many years, I used the language one-on-one care until one of our very savvy team members said, Karen, I really prefer the language of one-to-one
Mm.
because one-on-one to me triggers me. And I was like, oh my goodness, a great learning. And that's what I guess is so important for all of us. We have to stay open to new learnings and not feel as if we have to be defensive when someone says, how about this idea? That we're not defensive, that we say, okay, let me think about that. And then you give it a try, perhaps. And that's the way we keep evolving.
Mm. So, Karen, I think one of the strengths of this care model that you've already mentioned is prayer, always prayer. But I think another strength is something that you've touched on, which is the teamwork between the pastor and the laity. Tell me how that works, and is there resistance on either side of that relationship?
Oh, of course, there can be resistance on both sides of that equation or that coin. For pastors who have done this for a long time by themselves, or even for new pastors and who want to be trying everything out or doing things because that's what they love to do. If we don't share the ministry with each other, or if we as pastors don't share the ministry with our laity, we will find that there is just a time when those laity decide, hey, they don't need me, and they will just move on to something else in the church. So we as pastors need to make and include our laity in these great assignments, because if we do not, on our side as pastors, we're going to burn out. And that's what we have seen over and over the years. Pastors all of a sudden, because they cannot carry the load of care and get ready for every funeral and wedding and Sunday services and on, everything, and all of the denominational, requests that we have, we will burn out in a flame. And so having laity that are trusted, and we can say, I know you can take this on. I'm here for you. Let's do the first visit together. And then I think you have the capacity to do this ministry. So it's always about helping your laity feel as if, yes, indeed, they can do it. Even if they have butterflies in their stomach, they need to have the opportunity. And once they do it once or twice, it's like a life fulfilling process. It's like, this is what I have been waiting for my whole life. And it's healing for them. It takes their life story and gives it purpose. So
I've experienced that, Karen. I have experienced that as a CCM. And the CCMs partner with the pastor in different ways, in different times, in different care cases, and there's always communication. Do you have some stories about that?
Oh, Debbie, I think of the fires that we walked through together, and the prayer request would come through for certain particular things that I knew were part of your life story, and I would think, I wonder if Debbie has time and capacity to take this one on. And I think that's a question that we as pastors, or the person who's making the assignments, always needs to ask: how much can we put on our laity to take on? Because if there's a really challenging one, say a terminal death, where people are going through, say, a glioblastoma, or they are going through a court case where there's someone in that's hurting, just where a whole family is going through a hurting. Those are the places where you want to make sure that your laity are healed themselves, but also that they're not triggered. If they feel that they can't carry a particular piece to completion, that they can come to you and say, hey, there's, I've been working with this. Can I have a partner to work with, another laity to help me do this? I feel myself just overwhelmed a bit, and I need more help.
I know one of the strengths of the caring congregation model is that not every pastor has every life experience. So the laity does. If there's somebody who has been through cancer, or somebody who has been through a divorce, or the loss of a spouse, it is that person trained as a care minister that might, from their scars, right, their healed wounds, be able to be present with somebody in a different way than the pastor. Do you have some stories about that?
Absolutely. I remember one particular family that they had lost a daughter to suicide by police. And what that means is, if you don't know that terminology, it's where the person is so depressed that they decide to have the police, in a sense, the language that's used is take them out. So they call the police and say, you need to come to the house right now because I am not doing well and I need your help. And then when the police get there, they somehow attack the police with either gun or knife or whatever. And then the police end up, because of the danger to themselves, taking the other person's life. That's what you call suicide by police. So this
Wow.
is what happened to this family. It was Easter weekend or Easter week. And I remember doing the funeral on Good Friday. So I worked with this family over quite a long time, probably 2 years, and in grief groups and all, trying to help them forgive the police, but also forgive themselves because they felt that they had not done everything for their daughter that they wanted to be able to do. I was not the person to fully get the job done. And so there came an intern to us. He actually had been incarcerated for 23 years and had an amazing forgiveness story of forgiving the people who had incarcerated him and the people who had let him down so much along the way. He was the one who could help this family. And I remember inviting that person as this intern to just try to sit with the family and see if you can help them with their forgiveness issues. It was miraculous. He
That's
could
amazing.
help them in a way I could not. I could not. It was his story. And they looked at him and they said, if he can forgive them, and he went to prison for 23 years, we need to be able to work with him and go through the forgiveness process in a different way. And they did. And that's the kind of thing where, as pastors, what you say, yes, we have some capacity, but then there are other times when we will not be the ones. We have to keep telling ourselves we are not the Savior, and to build this team so that folks can really themselves continue to grow and be more healed, and also that we can extend that healing out across so many great stories that need extra help.
That's beautiful, Karen. Thank you for sharing these very powerful stories. This is part one of a two-part interview with the Reverend Karen Lampe. Part two continues with Care is the Heart of the Church. Karen shares thoughts on individual and team self-care and more. Join us.
Do you have a care story to share? We'd love to hear from you. Reach out to info@thecaringcongregation.org. You can also visit us at caringcongregation.com, where you'll find our full archive of podcast interviews under the Resources tab. While you're there, sign up to receive our weekly care note, and don't forget to follow us on the Caring Congregation Facebook and Instagram pages. Thanks for listening. Please join us next time on Caring Conversations.